If you like horror, hit that notification bell, smash that like button, and push that subscribe button now.
What's the boogeyman?
Hello, Sydney. Welcome to my nightmare. We want the man who did this.
Welcome to Nick Push's Horror Channel.
What is up, everybody? Happy, Thursday? We're in the middle of June. More importantly, 2025, which means 1985 was 40 fucking years ago. That's just mind-blowing to me. And I'm sure to all of you too. The middle of the 80s was a magical time. And I thought, being that, it's 2025, like I said, and 85 was 40 years ago, I thought it might be a good time to talk about some of those movies that are turning 40 years old today. So I got a list we're going to go through based on this article and just kind of talk about some different horror movies, besides the usual old shit that I'm always, talking about, Halloween, etc., etc., etc. James Morant in the house. What's up, James? How you doing, buddy? Thanks for stopping by. The Shape of Horror podcast. Bud, what's up, man? Bud and I were over on Blake and Ronnie's channel earlier this week. I think it was Monday. Wasn't live, but we did a trivia show. And we should have won. I can't give Bud crap for not being able to add because he got most of the answers right. We're on the same team. He got most of the answers right as opposed to things I would have said. So I can't give him too much crap. But if Bud knew how to do his arithmetic, we would be the reigning atop the leaderboard of the All the Good Names Are Taken Productions, I think they're called now, channel. So what's up, Bud? Thanks for stopping by. So yeah, we're going to talk 1985 horror movies. 1985 horror movies. I'm going to bring up my list here in a moment. Blake is in the house. Blake is the guy that always wins the inaugural or only trivia shows ever. So he was on a show called Racing the Clock or some shit like that. He won. He beat Shane Emerson, who was also here. So we got all the winners and losers of these trivia shows. What's up, Shane? So yeah. Let's bring up an article. Let's talk 1985 horror, guys. Like I said, I want to talk about some shit that I don't normally talk about. Figured let's go live and talk it out. So here's an article from Horror Fam with an M, where it's talking about the most significant horror movies of 1985. I glanced through the list. I've seen most of them, not all of them. But if I haven't seen something, I'm going to rely on you guys in the chat to tell me if I should check them out or not. So there's a list of maybe 15, 20 horror movies in here. I thought it might be fun to discuss some things we don't normally talk about. So before we do that, let's see what's going on in the chat. And then we're going to get to our first movie here. Adam is in the house. What's up, suckers? What's up, Adam? How you doing, buddy? And you guys are talking to each other. Shane never recovered from that ass whooping. Yeah, Shane had ridiculously hard questions, and Blake just whooped his ass. It was quite an ass whooping. I agree. All right, let's get to the first horror movie. Now, as I was glancing through here, there's a couple movies on here that I really wouldn't consider horror movies, but they are movies that are interesting to talk about. And I want to see if you guys in the chat have ever seen them. So let's scroll down. We're just going to do this. We got Return to Oz. So is this a horror movie? Probably not, but it's a fucking ridiculously weird ass like psychedelic horror movie. It's what you think it is. It's Dorothy returning to Oz and everything is all fucked up here. Have you guys ever seen Return to Oz? Did you like it? I'm so mixed on it. I like the weirdness, but it's just bizarre. And also the chick here who plays Dorothy, she's supposed to be younger, or she's supposed to be older, but she seems younger to me. And she's actually played by the actress, can't think of her name, from The Craft and from Waterboy. Adam Sandler's Squeeze and Waterboy. I can't think of her name. It's like a little bit of a bizarre name. But yeah, Return to Oz is a crazy fucking weird ass movie. Shane with a question here. Actually, hold on, Blake first. Blake says, I know this is another video probably, but what do you think is the best year for horror? God, that's a good question, man. For horror specifically, I mean, for movies specifically, it might be like 84 or something. For horror movies specifically, it's a good question. It might be 82, man. You got The Thing, you got Christine, you got there's a two Carpenter, right? No, Christine was 83. Shit. You got Poltergeist, you got The Thing. Poltergeist and The Thing's a tough 1-2 combo for me to beat. 78 though too. 78 has not only Halloween, it has Jaws 2, and it has a movie that I fucking adore. It's in my top 10 movies of all time, and that's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So it might be 78. It's a great question. And Shane says, what was the best year for horror in the 80s? Man, it's tough. It probably 82 or maybe 84. Bud says 86. 86 is probably a contender too. You got Jason Libbs. You got Lost Boys came out the year after that. That's a good question. That is a good question. Adam says 82. Yep. He's kind of on my wavelength. Poltergeist, The Thing, etc. Allie's in the house. What's up, Allie? How you doing? If Allie's in my chat, that means one thing, guys. That means one thing. Okay. Doesn't mean she's bored. It doesn't mean she has nothing else to do. It means that Vincent DeSante is not live right now, because otherwise she would absolutely be in his chat. Right, Allie? Okay. Return to Oz, like I said, weird ass movie. And Shane says 82 has Season of the Witch too. Yeah, 82 is really good. Aliens in 86, you're right. See, this is definitely a good, that's a good topic. You're right, like that is another video. Best year for horror, best year for movies, whatever. Yeah, that's a really good video. All right. First of probably many zombie films in 1985, we got Day of the Dead. This author says, I know you guys can read, but let's just read a little bit here. It says, Day of the Dead is one of my husband Frank's favorite movies ever. Tied with another film on the list, the third installment of the Dead franchise, following Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. So yeah, Day of the Dead. I haven't seen some of these of the Dead movies in a long time. I know like Blake and Ronnie, I think, are big fans of Night of the Living Dead. I think it's Night of the Living Dead. I think it is. It's the one with what's his face, Tom Atkins. Yeah. Okay. James says we're gonna get to the next movie soon here. James says 87 was a great year. Dream Warriors, Lost Boys, Evil Dead 2, Hellraisers, Monster Squad. God, that's crazy. Think of all the movies that were released in like the 80s and stuff. Now you get like maybe, I mean, I know there's a bunch, right? But now you get like 2 a year. Like it's crazy. Stars out of the playoffs. Adam says 82, The Thing, Creepshow 2, Friday 3. Yep. All right, let's look at next. All right, here we go. A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddys Revenge. So this is kind of the black sheep of the franchise. And I got to admit, guys, I fucking love this movie. And I didn't give it a chance for a long time. I didn't give it a chance because of, and it's not because of the undertones, if that's what you're saying, or overtones, I guess I should say. But it's just because it broke, the rules of the first movie. But if you're able to get past that, think about how scary Freddy is in this. Okay. Get past the subtext. I know it's June, but get past the subtext. Forget about all that shit, right? Freddy's fucking terrifying in this, and the practical effects are amazing. Like it is absolutely terrifying movie, and some of the visuals are just fantastic. And Freddy is fucking scary. Not only does he look scary, the way he's shot is scary. Oh, absolutely, Bud. That's on the list. That's probably my favorite movie from this year. We'll talk about that. But yeah, Freddy in Freddy's Revenge, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. Like I said, black sheep of the franchise, probably, besides the obvious Freddy's Dead. But Elm Street 2 is really, really good. Really good. I forgot Blake's a mod too. Yeah, my moderator here, Blake, is telling me forgot him a mod, hit that like button or your ass is gone. Like Terry Funk said in Roadhouse, if you ain't drinking, you're out of here. Damn right. So yeah, Freddy's Revenge, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is great. Really great. That's perfect. That's on the list, and we're in June here. All right, let's see what the chat is saying, and then we'll get to the next movie. Ellie agrees Freddy's Revenge is great. I actually did not give this movie, I didn't give it a chance, like I said, for a while. I've come around on it. And that's because kind of the some of the nice things about YouTube and the horror specter of YouTube is you hear other people's opinions on a movie that you maybe only watched once as a kid and you never came back to it. And you give it another chance. And maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, right? So Freddy's Revenge has started to, in the last 5 years or so, it started to get, I don't want to say a cult following, but it started to get more love. So I gave it another chance. And I'm glad I did because like I said, I'm a big fan of it now. It's in my top. Would it be top 3 in the franchise? You got the original, you got Dream Warriors, and it's either this one or Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and it's probably this one. It's probably my 3rd favorite movie in the franchise. Bud says he expects House on the list. House, we're going to be talking about that one for sure. All right, let's see here. Where I lost my place, guys. This is how often I go live. I don't know where to go. Okay, James Moran says decent sequel, doesn't deserve all the hate. Freddy is evil in part 3. Yeah, he's really evil. And Allie, who made a post on something else I'll be going live with probably next week, is final guys are so much better. Yeah, the question is Jesse really a guy with his scream? But yes, we'll call him a guy. He's just kind of confused. Adam says best final guy is Dr. Chalice. He's a man's man, that's for sure. And Bugs, yeah, the you're all my children now. Freddy's coming out of the dream world. You can get, you can, if you can get past, playing loose and fast with the rules that this movie does, there's some badass scenes in there. I agree. It probably was a mistake, but there's just so much good stuff. You're not a mod anymore, bud? I'll fix that. Ronnie's in the house. What's up, Ronnie? We're just talking about your trivia show earlier. Ronnie says Return to Oz, not horror. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely not horror. Okay, let's move to the next movie on this list. See if it's one I've seen. It is. We've definitely seen this. Speaking of black sheeps of the franchise, we got Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning, a.k.a. the one without Jason, but not that one without Jason, a.k.a. Roy fucking Burns. Another one that, just like Freddy's Revenge, everybody hated because Jason wasn't in it. Or like someone mentioned earlier, Season of the Witch, everybody hated because Michael wasn't in it. But as a fan base, and some of us, not all of us, some of us are more stubborn than others, but as we've kind of evolved into, not giving a shit about some of the semantics, I think this movie's gotten a lot more love lately. And, the characters in this movie, they might not be the best characters in the franchise, but as a collective whole, these characters, they might be the most memorable set of characters in the franchise as a collective whole. That's up for debate, right? But you got what's her face? I got a bomb on me. What the fuck's her name? Ethel. You got Ethel and Junior. You got those other fucking R words, as Blake and Ronnie would say in the cabin. You got what's his face? Reggie the Reckless. You got Demon and the Enchiladas. Like, think about all the characters that are just, they might not be great characters, but they're fucking memorable. And yes, it's 85, so they really are hamming up, the cliches and shit like that. And the characters might not get development as they would, but it's Friday the 13th. Who gets development? But yeah, if you can look past the fact that this is not Jason Voorhees, that this is Roy Burns, and who cares? There's a lot to like here. Now, the MPAA probably fucked this movie a lot. There's a lot of shit that, was cut on the cutting room floor because of, the MPAA at the time. Like I said, Violet's kill, for instance, was really graphic. And they cut that out. And there's a lot to like about this movie, especially because after this movie, the franchise changed, right? It became obviously the same franchise, but Jason Lives was such kind of a new, I don't want to say a new direction, but it was a breath of fresh air for the franchise. That's when Jason really became the MTV star, right? And that's a whole nother conversation. But there's something about the Paramount era. And when I think of the Paramount era, I think of the first 4 movies, but even part 5 kind of fits in there in kind of the, not really the style, because it was directed by a softcore porn director, right? And Danny Steinman, but it just kind of fits into the vibe of, those first 4 movies. And part 6 is just such a different movie where it doesn't really have the same vibe as some of the others. And that's to part 6's credit, right? It was time for a change. But part 5 still fits in there. So you can get the nostalgia of that, early Paramount era with this movie. All right, let's see what's going on in the chat. Blake with a good question or a good comment here that I haven't really thought about. Blake says, maybe my second favorite mask in the franchise, besides the newest one, of course. Yeah, it's a good mask. I mean, obviously it's got the blue chevron marks, right? But it's a pretty good mask. It's essentially, just looking at it, it's basically carbon copy besides the color of the chevron and not having the triangle in the middle above the eyes. It's pretty much like shaped exactly like part 3's. Ronnie loves Roy Burns. And Bud says, hell yeah, ages better and better. Roy getting the love now. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he absolutely is finally getting the love. And that's what's nice, now, we can look back and get rid of the emotion and stuff like that, being pissed off that it wasn't Jason. I know obviously a lot of us were just either really little or not born yet at the time. Although Bud, you probably were like 15 at that time. But, Roy is definitely getting the love now. Demon enchiladas. James, a big Friday fan, says it's not my favorite Friday the 13th sequel, but it's decent. They tried to go back to the first movie, the whole who done it. Yeah, and that's another thing with this movie. I would have liked to go back to my first time watching this movie and seeing if I was able to figure out that it was Roy Burns. I mean, they make it obvious now, the way he just stares at the camera and there's like a stinger or some shit, right? But I wonder if I even like suspected him. Like we see him in just that one scene, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, they went back to the whodunit. Adam says, I want to see Roy run into Jason. That'd be good. That would be good. Yeah, James, pissed off parent. Ronnie says, most diverse cast in the franchise. It's got to be true, right? Yeah. Yeah, because you got Reggie the Reckless and his grandpa. You got a bunch of slow people. You got who else is it? A Demon and his girlfriend, right? Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Hey, Live to Fish Works in the house. Yo, Nick, work sucks. At least you can help me get through this long night. I want to get back at it so bad, but when your life is swamped, it's harder than it looks. Yeah, I feel you, man. I feel you. I hope you do get back to it because I have enjoyed your videos. I caught up on some of them a couple weeks ago, actually. But yeah, dude, when life is rough, it's hard to get back into it. And in fact, the reason I started getting back into YouTube is because I was working so much and I just needed an outlet to kind of get back to normal and, stop being so focused on work and things like that. Although, who knows, a person on my staff just hadn't been there 2 weeks today, so might get busy again for me. But it's nice to get back to YouTube for a little bit, at least for me. James says, I see why fans like the first 4. The best kills, the best atmosphere, the best tension. Oh yeah. I'm just kidding, man. 4 of them. Responding to some. Oh, I get it. The diverse cast. Yeah. Got it. Okay, Ali, I know. If I talk crap about I'm talking crap about you. Let's get to the next movie. All right, next we have Fright Night. All right. Man, 85 stacked, huh? All right, Fright Night and Me. I saw this movie for the first time, believe it or not, about 6 months ago. 6 months ago, guys. That's how late to the party I am. Um, so when I'm thinking my favorite vampire movies, I'm thinking The Lost Boys. I'm thinking, stuff like that. Fright Night never crossed my mind. And even though I watched it late in life, we'll say, it still aged pretty well for me. I still enjoyed it. I Chris was that Chris? What the fuck's his name? Sarandon. Chris Sarandon. When I think of him, I think of Chucky, Child's Play, right? Um, but yeah, I enjoyed the hell out of this movie, and there's so much that I liked about it. And I think of Amanda Burst from Married with Children, Marcy. But so much I liked about it. Specifically, the guy in the picture here. This guy's like I can't remember exactly what he is, but he's like a fake TV host, or a TV host who's like a fake vampire hunter, like Van Helsing type something. And the kid reaches out to him, and he somehow gets interwoven into the story, even though he's not what he was claiming to be. And I just like that. I really enjoyed that part of it. And all the vampire lore was really good. And yeah, I enjoyed this movie. It's going to be a staple for me moving forward. It's one of those, like, there's so many movies on my list I need to watch. But it's one of those movies that I had always heard good things about. Every time people are talking about vampire movies, they mention The Lost Boys, like I said. They mentioned Fright Night. I'm like, and they mentioned Fright Night in like a horror comedy aspect too. So yeah, I'm with you guys. If you're a fan of Fright Night, I really liked it. Blake says, Nick, I love Fright Night. Have you seen the remake with Colin Farrell on the dead kid from Star Trek? I have not. I didn't know that existed. Interesting. Colin Farrell, huh? Yeah, it must have been like 10 years ago or something like that. No, I have not. Yeah, see, James says it's his favorite vampire movie. I felt like John Hughes could have directed this movie. Yeah, I can see that. You got like some of that like coming of age stuff like that. It's interesting. Bud says Fright Night rules. Agreed. And Shane is a fan of the remake. Blake dropping my buddy's YouTube channel. Thanks, Blake. Appreciate it, buddy. Now that's a mod. Blake is living up to his mod status. Now he just needs to choose one person to ban from the channel. Don't be Bud, okay? Don't ban anyone, Blake, unless, and Allie likes the remake better. Okay, interesting. Let's check it out. We got a male lead in the role of Evil Ed. What a character. Yeah, he was a good character. Shane says remake is more of a punk rock take. Very difficult, but kept the spirit of the original alive. That's what you want in a remake, right? You don't want a carbon copy. You don't want shot for shot like Vince Vaughn in Psycho, but you want to tell a similar tale with a different twist or take on it, but you want to keep the spirit of the original alive. So yeah, I'll have to check it out. Good call, Blake. Good call. Ronnie's got better shit to do anyway. Here we go. Speaking of Ronnie, I think Ronnie and Blake are big fans of The Return of the Living Dead. I think. I stand to be corrected. Yeah, I need to rewatch this movie. I started rewatching it a number of months back, and I can't remember, something happened where I had to get back to real life, and I never came back to it. But yeah, this is a classic. When people are talking zombie movies, I know this one might be up there with movies that are mentioned, as favorite zombie movies of all time. So yeah, I need to revisit it, so I don't have too much to say about it. But yeah, it's definitely one of those movies, like I said, that's always mentioned when people are talking zombie movies. Here's an interesting one. Stephen King's Cat's Eye. It's obviously a young Drew Barrymore in there. This is a weird, like, little anthology tale, if I'm not mistaken. Another one I watched like maybe a year ago or something like that. But nothing really to write home about. Yes, there's Drew Barrymore, but basically this cat is involved in all three. I think there's three little anthology tales. The cat just happens to be around. It's pretty ho-hum, pretty standard shit. I probably won't go out of my way to watch it. I was just watching it because I was looking for Stephen King shit that I haven't seen yet. at the time. And, Cat's Eye is as bland and basic as it gets. We're going to talk about another Stephen King movie, probably pretty shortly, I guess, because he had another one come out in 1985. That's one of my fucking favorites of the year and one of my favorites of the 80s and one of my favorites of a certain genre. And here it is, Silver fucking Bullet. Probably my second favorite werewolf movie of all time, besides An American Werewolf in London, which I also embarrassingly just saw within the last year and a half or so. But Silver Bullet is awesome. And what makes this movie for me, what absolutely makes this movie for me, is the relationship between Corey Haim and Gary fucking Busey. Yes, that crazy Gary Busey is fantastic. As what Uncle, I can't remember his name, Uncle something. But their relationship together is what makes this movie. Gary Busey has all these demons, like personal demons. I'm talking, not actual demons. But he's got a drinking problem. He just doesn't have his shit together. But you can tell he cares for Corey Haim. Red, thank you, Blake. Uncle Red. You can tell he cares for Corey Haim's character. As much or probably more than I say more than his parents, but just as much as his parents. And that relationship just kind of makes this movie, it gives this movie heart. And then you add into that the fact that there's a werewolf and nobody believes Corey Haim. His sister starts to believe him, right? And then you get, spoiler alert, it ends up being the priest, which is one of the actors from Twin Peaks. And it's just played really, really wonderfully. And there's some good tension in this movie, specifically the scene where the priest is trying to chase down Corey Haim in his silver bullet because Corey Haim is in a wheelchair, and Gary Busey makes him a special, like, super speeding wheelchair. It sounds ridiculous now that I'm saying it out loud. But there's a great scene where the priest is on to Corey Haim. He knows that Corey Haim knows that he's the werewolf, because the whole town's after him. He had just killed John Locke. He had just killed Terry, what's his name, from Stepfather. The sheriff is played by Terry O'Quinn, and yeah, it's just a really, really good movie. Bud says got to be Silver Bullets. He was right on the money there. And James says one of those rare times Gary Busey played a good character. Yeah, he usually plays an asshole. He was a pretty good character in Point Break, but other than those two, he usually plays a jerk. Corey Haim had quite a run. Ironically, in this movie, he couldn't run. I mean, that's just comedy gold, guys. That is just comedy gold. All right, let's move on to the next one. Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf. Haven't seen it. Let's read a quick tidbit and then move on. We obviously know the Howling 1 was starring Dee Wallace, was a hit. Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf, was also known as Howling 2 Sturba, Werewolf Bitch. Which isn't too provocative because, like dogs, female wolves are sometimes referred to as bitches. Yeah, nobody cares. Let's move on to the next movie, guys. Sorry, I haven't seen this one. I don't really have an inclination to see it. And reading a little blurb on that did not make me want to. All right, here's definitely not a horror movie, but definitely an awesome movie. Teen Wolf. Speaking of runs, Michael J. Fox in 85. Back to the Future, #1 at the box office. Teen Wolf, #2 at the box office. Oh, and the #1 TV show at the time was Family Ties. My God, what a run. But yeah, Teen Wolf is obviously not a fucking horror movie. God damn, is it a fun movie. I got a lot of nostalgia for this movie. We'll talk about it for a moment here just because it's an awesome fucking movie. But it's easily a comedy. I don't even know why it would be here. But, it's a classic. It's a classic tale. A boy is not bitten by a werewolf, but he's got a werewolf in his family. And he becomes a star basketball player, gets the girl, finds out he doesn't want the girl, goes with Boof, and just hijinks ensue. Yeah, Teen Wolf is fucking classic. Now, it's obviously made by Michael J. Fox, and the charisma of him and the charisma of Styles and Francis from Pee-wee's Big Adventures and here and all kinds of shit. Teen Wolf's great. Teen Wolf is absolutely great. Let's move on. Legend. I've never seen this movie. Do I have an inclination to want to talk about it? Has anyone in the chat seen Legend? It looks like some type of devil man here. Let's read this. Directed by Ridley Scott? Interesting. You don't know who Ridley Scott is. He directed Alien, among other things. But my friend's description of Legend, pretty accurate. Directed by Ridley Scott, Legend is a horror fantasy adventure that revolves around Tim Curry as the Lord of Darkness, trying to take over the world via slaughtering all the unicorns, which will plunge the land into eternal night. To make things a little easier for himself, he kidnaps a pure innocent princess, because unicorns dig her vibe, okay, whatever. But Tom Cruise takes it upon himself to rescue Princess Lily and save the world. Did I just read that right? You got Tim Curry, you got Ridley Scott, you got Tom Cruise, you got unicorns, and I've never seen this movie. What am I doing? I might need to watch this. It sounds, at worst, it sounds so bad it's good, probably. Okay. If you guys have seen The Legend, let me know. Let me know if it's good. Let me know if it's worth checking out. Another classic here, Reanimator. Another one I really, really need to revisit. This is a take on like Frankenstein and shit like that. But it's an absolute classic. Definitely one of those movies that became what they would, soon refer to as a cult classic. But yeah, Reanimator's great. Like I said, I haven't seen it in a long time, so I probably can't talk into too much detail on the plots. But yeah, Ellie with a good idea. A watch party for the movie Legend, so we can all watch it together. That's a good idea, Ellie. I'm gonna have to make that happen. Blake says it's got Billy Barty also. Interesting. But yeah, Reanimator, like I said, cult classic for a reason. I can't remember the name of the guy here that plays him, but yeah, definitely a cult classic for a reason. Another one I haven't seen, The Bride. Do I feel like talking about it? Not really. Mr. Vampire. Okay. These are Essential 85 horror movies? Come on. Mr. Vampire? I don't know. All right, we're getting to the bad. Where I know there's a couple good ones, or at least one good one at the end we need to talk about. What is this? Transylvania 6-5000? Interesting. Phenomena? Dario Argento. Interesting. Another one I haven't seen. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Demons. I haven't seen this in a while, but this is a fucking crazy-ass movie. Essentially, these people go into a movie theater, I think, and like demons take over and they're stuck in there or something. Like I said, some of these I haven't seen in fucking forever, and it's just making me want to revisit them. But definitely need to revisit this one. Definitely need to check out Legend with Tim Curry and Tom Cruise. As like the plot to Demons is essentially, what if a zombie outbreak happened in a movie theater while the audience is watching a horror film? Think of the opening scene for Scream, but feature length and spreading. Yeah, if I recall, they're like stuck there and shit like that. It's interesting. Here we go. Ghoulies. Ghoulies came about because the year before, a little movie caught popularity by the name of Gremlins. So evidently, they were like, what else is tiny creatures taking over? How about something called Ghoulies, where shit comes out of the toilet? Just fucking weird. But it exists, and I think it's on Tubi for free. If I saw last, yeah, if I recall. But Ghoulies is definitely a weird little movie, and I think it's actually a fucking franchise, believe it or not. I think there's at least two of them. There's probably more. Because there's the 80s. Think about all the fucking movies that got churned out in the 80s. All movies, but like specifically horror movies. It's crazy. But Ghoulies is definitely an interesting movie. Ellie loves Ghoulies. See, yeah, it definitely has its fans. I haven't seen it in a bit. I always got it confused with Little Monsters. You guys ever see that with Howie Mandel and Fred Savage? I always got it confused with that for some reason growing up. Which they're not really alike, but for some reason, when I think of Ghoulies, I think of Little Monsters. I think of how fucking Howie Mandel and his weird makeup and the fact that he hates germs and all that shit. But yeah, Little Monsters is definitely a good one. I think that's early 90s. Bud is not a fan of Ghoulies. Ghoulies sucks. Okay, so we got a couple conflicting opinions here between Bud and Allie on Ghoulies. I think it is what it is. If I turn on a movie called Ghoulies about monsters coming out of the toilets, I'm in the mood for some dumb schlocky fun, apparently. So yeah. Vampire Hunter 3D. Or no, it's a Vampire Hunter D. What the fuck is the D stand for? Maybe I don't want to know, right? Let's see what this is about. Vampire Hunter D is the anime adaptation. I don't give two fucks about anime. Sorry, guys. I just don't. Let's move on. Okay, we got a cartoon here. Look at this, a horror cartoon. Bud and Allie never agree on anything. That's not true. I've seen you guys agree on a lot. All right, let's see. The Black Cauldron. Yeah, I remember this shit. I forgot all about this movie. At the time, The Black Cauldron was the most expensive animated film ever made. Interesting. And it was a massive failure that almost tanked Disney's animation department. Okay, I'm learning something here. That it's horror theming and its PG rating. The first Disney cartoon movie to receive more than a G made The Black Cauldron a pretty significant. That's interesting. Whether you love, hate, or are completely neutral to The Black Cauldron, I highly recommend watching the Defunct Land mini documentary on the history of the film, as well as the walking tour that existed at Tokyo Disneyland. Yeah, let me just fly out to Tokyo to fucking go about The Black Cauldron. It's fucking ridiculous. But anyway, I had no idea about like the history of this, but I do remember this movie. And Bud said, yeah, The Black Cauldron was the death of Disney animation. Yeah, now Disney is being killed by another virus. Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Here we go. Once Bitten with Jim Carrey. All right, guys. I got to tell you something about this movie. Okay? I don't like it. I do not like Once Bitten. I know I've never heard anyone say they don't like this movie. There's probably a lot of people, right? But I usually don't mention Once Bitten unless you're some fan. Oh, Once Bitten, I love that movie. I don't like it. I don't like it. And I don't even have a reason for not liking it. Like, I was like, my thoughts on Jim Carrey now aside, at the time in the early 90s, and I know this obviously wasn't 1990, it's 85, but at the time in the 90s, I was a big Jim Carrey fan, from Ace Ventura to Dumb and Dumber, obviously Cable Guy, his run was great. So this has nothing to do with Carrey, but for some reason, I just didn't like this movie. And I don't know why. I'm not opposed to vampire movies, like all kinds of shit. I just, it's not a fan of Once Bitten. All right, deal, Blake. Deal. Life Force. What is this? Directed by Tobe Hooper. Life Force was an extremely ambitious, erotic sci-fi horror film. All right. With a killer cast. Shout out to Patrick Stewart's small but memorable performance as a side character. Okay. I've heard of this now that I mention it. All right. Apparently people are upset that I don't like Once Bitten. Bud says I'm out of my goddamn mind. That's par for the course for Bud. Blake gives me a dude. Blake says he just watched Life Force a week ago. Okay. Blake says the erotica that they mentioned is not a myth. Continues on. It says, if all that sounds great to you, then you'll be surprised to learn that Life Force was a massive box office bomb that was the start of a pretty bad time for Tobe Hooper. Interesting. Space vampires. Okay. I like Tobe Hooper. he obviously, like I said, did Texas Chainsaw. He did at least a little bit of Poltergeist. So yeah, interesting. I'll have to watch it. Creature, here we go. Looks like we're getting towards the end of this list. There's one notable movie I need to talk about here that I know is on here. But Creature, look at the tagline here. It says, it's been sleeping peacefully on a moon of Saturn for 2,000 centuries until now. 2,000 centuries. So it's 2,000 times 1,000? Interesting. Okay. Says if this website existed in 85, Creature, aka Titan Find, would almost certainly have gotten a spotlight. Okay. Yeah, Bud's never seen it. Bud says he's never seen it. Blake says guy who wrote Return of the Living Dead, also O'Bannon, helped with Life Force. Oh, okay. Interesting. Allie's never seen it. And Blake says, yeah, Patrick Stewart is in there. Interesting. Okay. Creature. Here we go. Okay. So this is the movie. When I think of 85 horror, I think of House. Okay. I'm a massive fucking fan of this movie. This is absolutely a horror comedy. It's schlocky, it's fun. But it's just batshit crazy. I fucking adore the movie House. And there's a lot of themes that are interwoven in this movie. I'm certainly no expert on, movie language and things like that, but the cinematic dialogue and everything about this movie, the themes, what it's trying to say is just baked into it. It's about a guy that moves into his old aunt's house after she kills herself. Roger, his name is. And the dude from Cheers that just died is his neighbor. But it's just like he's got the almost survivor's guilt about Vietnam. And some guy played by, what's his name? Richard Mole from Night Court. Richard, can't remember his name. Richard Mole is his name. I can't remember his name in Night Court. Bull from Night Court, is basically like, he's being haunted by, the house is haunted, kind of, but these monsters keep coming out of nowhere. His son disappeared, but basically, like, the guy has all this survivor's guilt about what happened in Vietnam, and it cost him his son, okay? And he's got to get over, blaming himself or, something like that. And there's all kinds of crazy, weird shit. Like I said, it's weird, like movie language, but it's so fucking fun. And it's so fucking weird. And actually, I think, is this a Sean Cunningham movie? Did he direct it? I know the guy that did Harry Man from Dini does the music, but it might be a Cunningham movie. And I stand to be corrected on that. But yeah, I adore House. One of my favorite movies of the 80s. And like I said, just all those themes and stuff, how you can lose yourself in the guilt so much that you lose a member of your family. Normally that's metaphorically, right? But in this case, he really loses it. He really loses his son. He has to get him back. And there's just so much weird shit that happens in this movie. Yeah, Bud says House is wild. And yeah, the Vietnam War themes, this came out in 85, right? And, is there any history buffs out there? When did Vietnam end? Was that like 68, 71? I don't know. Thank you, Blake. Steve Miner. And yeah, Cunningham Production. Yeah, Steve Miner. So the same guy that did Friday 2, Friday 3, Halloween H2O, other shit too. But yeah, okay. But I knew Bud would know. 73. Okay. So yeah, it's only 12 years after Vietnam ended. And it's probably hard for anyone that's younger, that's especially younger than me, right? It's probably hard to know what Vietnam was actually like. I wasn't born during the Vietnam War. I was born, a decade after that, right? But Vietnam was such an interesting time. And if you look in the 80s, in the like early 90s with like the X-Files, there's all kinds of like post-war, post-Vietnam War movies and TV shows and stuff where the themes of the Vietnam War are in there. And House took all that and turned it into a horror comedy, which is pretty genius. But yeah, everything about this movie is great, especially, I don't have a picture of it right now, but especially there's a sweater that William Catt, the great American hero, wears, where it's like a V-neck sweater, but the V goes down to his fucking belly button. It's badass. Like, it's ridiculous, but like I would wear the fuck out of that V-neck sweater. Like, it is crazy. All right, bud, throwing some history here. Good thing. Thanks, buddy. It says ended after Nixon was reelected. He waited until he had 4 more years. Gotcha. Okay, fascinating. All right, let's see what's next. It looks like there's probably only a couple more. The Stuff. Never seen The Stuff. A lot of these movies I've seen watching, like, or I've heard about watching either from people on YouTube or Twitter or whatever, but I've also like seen, like, you know, there's all these like Eli Roth documentaries where it's like the 100 scariest moments in horror movies, and they talk for a couple minutes about certain horror movies. And I remember something with The Stuff. It looks like, and I could be wrong on this, it almost looks like a kind of like a take on like The Blob or something. Let's read the tagline here. Blake says it's fun. And Bud says it has a cult following. It says, if you see The Stuff in stores, call the police. If you have it in your home, don't touch it. Get out. The Stuff is a product of nature, a deadly living organism. Okay, I'm starting to come around on this. Larry Cohen's satirical horror film is a sharp critique on consumerism and corporate greed. Okay, so maybe it's like a combination of The Blob and combined with what's it called? John Carpenter's 88 movie, They Live. Interesting. Okay. I'll have to check it out. Chocolate Chip Charlie. I'm assuming that's from the movie. Interesting. Oh, guys. I didn't know this was on here. This is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. Like, movies of all time. I'm not even fucking joking with you. I know Blake watched it, but has anyone seen the Paul Rubens documentary, PeeWee as himself? Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I love Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I remember being in elementary school, me and my best friend Brian, we'd quote it, Large Mart, everything about it. This movie is so good. I'm not a Tim Burton guy at all. Like, other than this and Batman, don't really care for too much of Tim Burton stuff. Just like, I don't think it's bad. It's just not for me. But Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Tim Burton's first feature-length movie, was awesome. And Pee-wee and Paul Rubens and Tim Burton are why we have Danny Elfman in the roles he is in today. Why we know his name. I know he was in the band Ooga Looga or whatever the fuck they're called, Congo Bongo, whatever the fuck they're called. But they brought him on to do the score for this, and it launched his career. But yeah, I love Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I think it was co-written by Phil Hartman too, R.I.P. And yeah, just like the imagery in this movie, there's scary shit in this movie. I know, like I'm saying, it's not a horror movie, right? But there's scary shit in this movie. One of the scariest images for me, like, is the image on the screen right now. That guy with the clown makeup. It's fucking crazy. Like, some of the images in here. You think of Large Marge. You think of the clown the clown statue guy when his bike's stolen. How his smile changes and oh god, I could, it's a story about a man or a boy or a man child trying to get his goddamn bike back. And you can't look at the Alamo and not think of this movie if you're a fan. Yeah, it's great. It's great. This movie is, Bud? Really? I don't get it. Is it? Okay, same because of Tim Burton. Okay. I don't know. Blake says Rubens was upset, rightfully so, that Burton got all the credit for this movie. Yeah, Burton did get all the credit for this movie. And it probably should have been split 3 ways between Rubens, Burton, and Hartman. As you guys have seen, if you're a Pee-wee fan, they thought they could just churn out any, get Pee-wee the character into any movie after this, and that it would do what this movie did, and it just didn't. And that's because, and yes, Burton is a factor with that, but Hartman's voice too is a factor for that. And Rubens, maybe having too much power when, maybe he should have been reined in a little bit. I don't know, but they were never able to catch lightning in a bottle. But yeah, it's unfortunate that Rubens didn't get much credit for this movie. And I think that might have had to do with the fact that nobody knew his real fucking name. like at all. Like that watch that documentary. It's fascinating how he decided to go into talk shows as Pee-wee Herman and nobody knew who Paul Rubens was. Oingo boingo. Thank you, Blake. Yeah, it's a dead man's party. Adam says, yeah, that's a great song. That's a great song. From the stuff. That's what you're talking about, Bud, with your bullshit. Got it. Okay. Bud says, I like Big Top Pee-wee more than Paul Rubens did. I haven't seen it in a while. Okay, so those are the 85 horror movies. Is this actually a pop quiz we can take? Let's see. Can we take this quiz? Doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. Okay. Let's get back on the screen here. Okay. So like I said, 85, a stacked year in horror. The fact that it's 40 years old means A, I'm old. And anyone that remembers these movies are probably old too. And B, I just think it's a good time to celebrate it. And I just kind of want to get on tonight and talk about movies that I don't normally talk about. Because as much as I love talking Halloween, as much as I love talking Friday the 13th, as much as I love talking Scream, and lately I've been on a Dexter kick, it's nice to talk about some of this random shit too that kind of can trigger the good memories and shit like that. I'm curious now, getting back to, I want to get back to one of the original questions that Blake asked here. Is it, where is it? Either way, what was the best year for horror? I don't know if I'd choose 85. I don't know if I would. It's certainly in the conversation though. I'm probably going 78, and it's not just because of Halloween. It's a big factor. But like I said, I love Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and I also love Jaws 2. Even 1980, you got The Shining. Is there anything else? Friday the 13th, obviously, right? The Shining and Friday the 13th. That's a great 1-2 combo. 81, Halloween 2, An American Werewolf in London. Like, think about these combos of movies in the early 80s specifically. But what's interesting is you get to 85, and you think 85 is right smack dab in the middle of like the slasher craze. And yes, it is, but it's already kind of on the downtrend at that point. Slashers, obviously, Halloween, technically Black Christmas, right, in 74, but Halloween 78, right, super successful. And I'm not saying anything that has been said here before. I'm not exactly splitting the atom here, but Halloween 78, then Friday the 13th blows the doors off of the slasher craze, and then it's just boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I'm talking like 30 slasher movies a year, every year for like 5-year span. It's nuts. Good call, bud. My Bloody Valentine in 81 as well. Yeah, 81, like anywhere from 78. I don't know about 79. Alien, right? I think Alien was 79. But anywhere from 78 to probably 84, any of those years has a major argument for the best year in horror. And then, I think once you get to the late 80s, there's a lot of good shit. Like 88. 88 is decent too. You got Halloween 4. I'm a huge fan of the Blob remake from 88. I love that movie. Let me see. What other horror movies in 1988? Let me just see here. 1988 horror movies. Let's see here. Just give me some pictures here. Yeah, we got the Blob, like I said. Huge fan of that. Child's Play. Not much else. New Blood, Friday the 13th. Like, that's probably my least favorite Friday the 13th. Yeah, let me go to 86 because I think Bud mentioned 86 earlier. Okay, 86. You got April Fool's Day, Chopping Mall, Jason Lives, obviously. Critters. Critters is a fucking wild movie. That's like it's like Ghoulies with hairy little creatures, right? Yeah, but 88, Friday 7. Yeah, I can't stand Friday 7. I just can't. For some reason it says 86. Let me check. 1987. Let's check 1987. What do we got here? Ooh, 87 looks like a lot of nothing. Yeah, there's there's tons of shit in 87, but nothing that stands out to me very much. It's interesting. Yeah. So for me, it'd probably be anywhere in the early 80s, anywhere from or late 70s, anywhere from 78 all the way through 84 would probably be my best year for horror. But Adam says Class of Nukem High, 86 ruled. Nice. Yeah, I would probably say, gun to my head right now, I'd say 78, followed by 82. And then 84 is good too. That was 84, you had Friday 4, you had Nightmare on Elm Street, right? Gremlins, Children of the Corn. I mean, that's a pretty. I mean, I know Children of the Corn is not a great movie, but I have a lot of fun with Children of the Corn. But going back to 86, Night of the Creeps and Maximum Overdrive. Yes, good call. Sometimes Googling shit doesn't work. You got to go by memory. 84, you had Firestarter, another young Drew Barrymore one. That's crazy. Let's go to 83. For 83, I know there's Christine, right? Also, Amityville 3D, who cares? Christine. Frightmare, never heard of that. Jaws 3, right, bud? 83 is Jaws 3. I thought Jaws 3 was 82, though. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Sleepaway Camp in 83. Psycho 2, that's another one I need to rewatch. Psycho 2 is good. Yeah, let's go to 82. Like I said, off of memory, 82. We got The Thing. We got Poltergeist. You might not have a better 1-2 punch than that, right? The Thing and Poltergeist. I'm a huge Poltergeist fan, as you guys know. Huge fan of The Thing. Halloween 3, right? Let's see what else is in 82. See, now I could go on a tangent. This is a video. Blake is right. Another video. But 1982 horror movies. Show me images here. Come on. 82 horror movies. The Thing. Poltergeist. Halloween 3. Creepshow, Adam says. Yes, Creepshow. I love shit like Creepshow. Friday 3 and 82 as well. The original Creepshow is good. I like those little anthology ones, especially some of the ones, even some of the shittier ones. They're just fun to watch sometimes. Yeah, that's good. I want to just look at 82, 81, and 79 now. So 81, we have The Burning. Okay. The Burning, we have Evil Dead, the OG Evil Dead. Okay. Omen 3. Friday 2, right? Friday 2. Adam says Tenebrae. I haven't seen Tenebrae. 81 has Funhouse. The Funhouse. Final Exam. I think Blake and Ronnie watched Final Exam on their channel once, believe it or not. I think. Okay, let's go to 1980. I want to look at 80 and 79. Curious now what stands out. I click 1980 and it's giving me any movies in the 80s. 1980. I want a list of horror films in 1980. Alligator. I fucking love Alligator. Love Alligator. Ellie says she loves The Burning. But it says 82 is a little light. Yeah, it is. It's top heavy, right? It's really top heavy. Ellie says Final Exam is fun. But 1980, we have Alligator. I'm a huge fan of Alligator. Robert Forster. Big fan of that movie. The Changeling. I'm a ginormous fan of The Changeling. I fucking adore George C. Scott. The Changeling's great. Let's see if there's anything else notable. The Fog. Obviously. Friday the 13th. Obviously. 1980 is pretty good here. Pretty good. But American Werewolf is 81, if I'm not mistaken. Adam, yes, The Shining. Thank you. Shining's in my top, at least my top 5 horror films of all time. Blake says Randy mentions Final Exam and Scream 2. Does he? Interesting. I didn't know that. to check that out. Okay, I'm going to go to 79 now because I would assume 79's got to have some stuff besides Alien, right? Because, like I said, 78 is a fucking monster as far as the top three for me. And then Friday the 13th obviously blew the doors off the slasher craze in 1980. What's other than Alien in 79? Is there anything notable? Amityville Horror. I just rewatched that, the original, a couple months ago. It held up actually pretty well for me. I thought it was really good. And I just love that era. Isn't the Omen 78 too? The original Omen? Or that might be 76. But if the Omen's 78, I mean, I think 78 is hands down for me. Mother's Day. Yes, Mother's Day, New Year's Eve. Well, see, look at all this shit. Look at all these slasher movies. Fucking classic. All right, 79. We got Alien. We got the Amityville Horror. Adam, thank you. Phantasm. God damn. Phantasm's good. See, I'm telling you guys right now. You guys think I'm crazy. I've said this before. People think I'm nuts. The top of 1970s horror is greater than the top of 1980s horror. Like, easily for me. I don't think it's fucking close. You got Halloween. You got Jaws. You got Alien. You got Phantasm. You got The Omen. You got Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Like, look at that. Black Christmas. 70s, the top of 70s horror, maybe not in an aggregate. The top of 70s horror is way better than the top of 80s horror, and I will take that to my grave. Now, some of that's personal taste, right? I adore the, just kind of the style and the way the 70s horror feels, just more grainy and shit like that. I just like that, and I think I like it more now because everything's so fucking polished nowadays. Look at something like, for instance, like, I know it's not recent, it's now 16 years old, but the Friday the 13th, 2009 remake. It's just like, yes, technically it's the same shit, Jason killing teens in a lake house setting, but it's like a little too polished when you're comparing that to back in the day. And it's just a taste thing, I think. And I just really like the way 70s horror movies feel. So yeah, interesting. When a Stranger Calls, 79, but yeah, Phantasm too, like a big fan of Phantasm. But it says 79, not great. Yeah, it's got a couple, but it probably wouldn't last pound for pound against some of those other years. Carrie, yes, Carrie, thank you, bud. Carrie in the 70s too. Adam, yeah, with a good point. Yeah, early 80s hits better for me because that's when I got into it. Yeah, and it's hard to argue with that. It really, really is hard to argue with that. Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 74, I think, right? 74? Yeah, crazy. But all right, guys, that I think is going to be it for me tonight. Allie says, When a Stranger Calls is really good. Yeah, that is really good. That kind of peaks early, right? But it's still really, really well done. But yeah, that's going to be it for me tonight. I appreciate people tuning in. Hey, Mike, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for stopping by. Mike from Real Dead, stopping by. I'm just finishing up, buddy. Thanks, Adam. And it's okay, buddy. You didn't miss anything. Me rambling about nonsense. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me tonight. Like I said, I wanted to just get on here, celebrate the fact that 85 is stacked, and we're now 40 years away from that, which is fucking crazy. And like I said, it's just fun for me to talk about shit I don't normally talk about. So thank you everyone for tuning in. You guys were great in the chat tonight, especially since as you guys can see by my StreamYard, I'm not paying for all the bells and whistles here these days because I don't have any money. Trump and Elon are fighting, and I'm scared I'm going to lose all my money. Just kidding. But no, I'm not paying for StreamYard, so I don't have all the bells and whistles. Trying to get back into live streaming more consistently again. We'll see how that goes. But it makes it easier for me to want to continue to go live when you guys do what you did tonight and you're just lively in the chat and we got a good conversation going. So that's a long-winded way of saying thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. I appreciate you all. I'll see you soon.